Welcome to CISS Conversations, where we will discuss the states and their efforts to manage dual impact of big data and AI. The line between reality and digital deception is vanishing faster than we thought. A recent New York Times quiz showed that even experts struggle to identify AI-generated deepfakes from real videos.
That's fascinating because it really highlights how we've crossed a threshold where this technology has become nearly undetectable to the human eye.
Well, what's really concerning is that these deepfakes aren't just confined to entertainment anymore. The 2024 presidential elections showed us that AI-powered misinformation has become more dangerous than the interference we saw back in 2016.
You know what's ironic about all this? These tools were originally created for Hollywood special effects, and now they're weapons in what experts call the disinformation battleground.
Hmm, let me break this down with something called the 3 V's of big data: volume, variety, and velocity. We're talking about more data being generated in a single day than entire countries produced in a year during the 1990s.
So, how are organizations even beginning to manage this tsunami of information?
That's where AI comes in. It's like having a supercomputer that can process this massive amount of data. But here's the catch. We're dealing with what experts call the black box problem, where sometimes we can't even understand how these AI systems reach their conclusions.
Well, that's exactly what makes this so concerning. We're creating systems that might be making decisions we can't fully comprehend or explain.
And it gets even more complex when you consider the military applications. Like, autonomous weapons systems are being developed that can process data and make decisions faster than any human could, which brings up some serious ethical questions.
Speaking of ethics, didn't the Irish delegation at the UN recently make some pretty stark warnings about this technology?
Oh yeah. At the 79th First Committee of the General Assembly session, they specifically called out how the cyber domain is being instrumentalized to undermine human rights and democracy. They literally described it as becoming a war-fighting domain in its own right.
That's pretty chilling when you think about how much of our daily lives are now connected to these systems.
Right? And every digital interaction we have is creating more data that could potentially be used against us. The Biden administration recognized this threat in 2023 and started pushing for partnerships between government, private companies, and international organizations.
You know, it seems like we're really at a turning point with this technology.
Exactly. And here's what's interesting. Governments are now scrambling to implement comprehensive regulations that protect citizens while still allowing for innovation. We're talking about massive investments in infrastructure, workforce development, and ethical guidelines.
But how do we ensure these systems don't perpetuate existing biases? That seems like a huge challenge.
Well, some organizations are implementing rigorous testing protocols to identify and eliminate discriminatory patterns. But here's the thing. The technology is advancing faster than our ability to regulate it, which is why international cooperation is becoming so crucial.
That makes me wonder about the average person's understanding of all this.
You know what's encouraging? We're seeing more public discourse about these issues, more investment in responsible AI development, and a growing emphasis on ethical considerations. The key is maintaining this momentum while keeping the human element in focus.
Looking ahead, what should people be watching for in this space?
3 main things. First, watch for new regulations around deepfake technology, especially in election contexts. Second, pay attention to international cooperation on AI governance. We're likely to see more global frameworks emerging. And finally, keep an eye on how private companies are implementing ethical AI guidelines. The decisions being made now will shape how we interact with this technology for generations to come.
That really puts things in perspective. We're not just talking about technology anymore, but the future of truth itself.
And that's exactly why this conversation matters. Thanks for joining us on CS Conversations.